Have you ever felt an inner whisper or a quiet guidance, as though someone beyond yourself was gently leading you? The Bhakti texts and sages tell us that presence is real and the Superself, our eternal divine friend who never leaves our side. We've never been alone and will never be alone at any time in the future. What do we mean by this? In several episodes, we explored the nature of the Atma, and in the last episode, we heard from Krishna in the Gita. To answer our question, we're going to more deeply explore the super self and our relationship with the divine. But before we speak about another being, we need to consider a couple more things about ourself. Experience proves that we aren't self-manifest or self-sustaining. Who can say they can sustain themselves without the need of anything outside of themselves? Each of us needs air, water, and food to maintain our biological bodies. And we need sunshine, healthy relationships, and a peaceful, safe environment for our mental health. We didn't create the sun, air, water, or the seeds or fruits, vegetables, and grains, which are all essential to our existence. Simply put, we're dependent entities who can't even control many of the functions of our own body. And we're very small, which is quite clear as soon as we consider our place in the universe. The Bhakti texts explain that we're atomic units of sentience, small bits of consciousness, particles of truth. We are a finite unit of consciousness. That we're small, dependent, and not self-manifest indicate there is another aspect of reality, another causal truth that facilitates our existence. In his Yoga Sutras, Patanjali introduces Ishwar, who is in a special category because he is free from the bonds of matter such as afflictions and karma. The term Ishwar means a supreme being. As we've heard in the last episode, Krishna says that everything in creation rests on him just as pearls are strung on an unseen thread. And he says that he is the foundation, source, and shelter of unlimited jivas, or souls. To give us a framework, the Upanishads speak of a tree that has two birds sitting next to each other on a branch. One bird is focused on eating the sweet and bitter fruits of the tree, and the other simply observes, witnessing the actions of the first bird, but not eating the fruits. In this metaphor, the tree is the material world, and the fruits represent happiness and distress. The bird who is eating is us, the individual self, and the bird who is observing is the Paramatma, or the Oversoul. The Oversoul is also an individual, just like we are individuals. Our greatest blessing is the companionship and friendship of our overseer, who is also called the Supreme Self. This Supreme Self, the Upanishads tells us, sits with us in the heart and never leaves our side. He is our source and divine friend who forever accompanies us throughout all our lives. His love for us is described as like an ocean, ever ready to drown us in that love. The Supreme Self arranges what we need, desire, and deserve by providing the world environment for us to act and experience, and dispensing reactions of happiness and distress to our actions or karma. When we understand our relationship, we'll return Krishna's love with our devotion and service. Desiring to enjoy the fruits on the tree of material action, the finite self becomes entangled in material existence. However, when we turn our attention to the super self, recognize his supreme position, and take guidance from our friend, our distress and suffering comes to an end. His guidance comes to us in many forms, and we're all familiar with his presence as the inner voice that regularly tries to guide us toward our highest good. He speaks to us in dreams, through the world around us, through teachers, and through sacred texts. Have you ever had a gut feeling that has guided you in the right direction? Have you ever experienced a moment when you felt supported by something beyond yourself? Or perhaps you suddenly received an insight into a problem or creative project? Some call these flashes of intuition. Bhakti texts explain these communications can be the voice of our divine friend who is offering guidance born of perfect love and wisdom. In the Katha Upanishad, the Superself is called the Supreme Eternal amongst all eternals. In other words, he is the Supreme Conscious Being among all the dependent conscious beings, and he alone fulfills the desires of the many. In this way, the Superself is in a separate category of conscious beings, being all-powerful and the source of all other beings. Therefore, there are two categories of conscious beings. One category is the innumerable individual, dependent, finite beings, and the other category is the singular, infinite being who is the source of the many and maintains them. Just as a spark has no independent existence without the fire it emerges from, we are dependent on our source. We're a part of the whole, but we've forgotten our connection. Bhaktivedanta states that this forgetfulness is the basis of material illusion and ignorance, which is the root cause of our suffering. Although we're of the nature of immutable, faultless, brilliant spirit, because we're atomic in size, we're vulnerable to the deluding influence of the material energy which eclipses and conceals our real nature. The influence of this illusory energy creates a veil that hides the self, the supersoul, and their relationship. The Atma is the Supreme's superior energy, and though finite, is of the same nature as the sweet Absolute. We are a spark of a greater fire. In contact with the source fire, the soul's light or knowledge and warmth or loving devotion remain intact. Disassociated from the sweet Absolute, we cannot find our illumination, immortality, and joy. When our thoughts and actions are not connected to our source, we lose our ability to perceive the self, and we become illusioned by contact with the body-mind, which are constituted of inert matter or the Supreme's inferior energy. We solve all our problems by knowing the immortal self and addressing its need for meaning and love. When we do, we end our unnecessary migration from body to body. If we can see through the bankrupt promises of material enjoyment, then we have an opportunity to reconnect with the grand fire of consciousness through a loving relationship which gives full expression to our highest self and awards attainment of our highest potential. Just as in normal circumstances we have a natural and loving bond with our mother, we have a natural loving relationship with our source. This bond of affection is called Bhakti. Bhakti is the glue of that relationship which is fundamental to our existence and our happiness. When we're disconnected from our reliable divine friend and source, we look to things and temporary relationships to fulfill us. Unfortunately, everything in this world fails us sooner or later. Perhaps that's why we see that most of us have a strong desire, an actual need to know our source. And a quick look at the number of genealogical organizations speaks to the fact that we're captivated by the idea of tracing our history and uncovering our hidden story. We want to know who or what makes us who and what we are. Maybe there was someone important in our past, and that revelation could give us importance or status. We have an innate sense that if we could trace out our source, we'd know something true about ourselves, and with this information, we might be wiser or happier or more connected. Perhaps we might find meaning and value in our life. The fact is, we are important, and the concealed story of our roots is remarkable. But instead of tracing our bloodline, it's better if we trace our line of consciousness. When we do, we find we're connected to the sweet Absolute who loves us. True love reaches its ecstatic peak, its absolute joy in the union between the Supreme Beloved and the lover. Why is this true? Because the essence of both categories of conscious beings is that they are lovers. Being a lover is the very Dharma of the self, or its inherent or intrinsic characteristic. The word Dharma refers to the nature of something. For instance, the Dharma of sugar is to be sweet. Sugar will never be sour or hot. The Dharma of fire is to burn. Fire will never be cooling. And the Dharma of the self is to love, and love includes serving. As units of consciousness, when we're in a healthy state, we're impelled to love, serve, and give. Take a minute to think about the activities you do in a day. You'll find that they'll be connected back with serving someone or something. If we choose to engage our loving propensity in relationship with our divine friend, we find our true home and our troublesome material existence comes to an end. Just as I'm compelled to love, so too is my divine source from whom I garner all my propensities. My source's insatiable desire for unlimited loving reciprocation creates a pressing need in him. What is that? He desires my love. Although I'm small, I'm important to him because I have love to give. Being a unit of love gives me inestimable value, and so I'm someone he desires. Now ask yourself, what is your future if your source, the reservoir of the highest joy, limitless in his capacity for giving, receiving, and sheltering, prizes you and you reciprocate by loving him? To fully appreciate what I've just said, we need to contemplate this for a minute. The Supreme Person is the very form of bliss. Anyone who simply sees him is overcome with ecstatic feelings. Now, if that person who is bliss engages with me, I can experience the highest ecstasy. This is the inalienable nature of a relationship with bliss personified. If I would like to have this experience, I'll need to begin a relationship with a sweet Absolute. And like any relationship, love is cultured through practical acts of giving and serving. In the Bhakti texts, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn that Bhakti Yoga is the easy way to cultivate love for the Supreme because it consists of the attractive activities of hearing about him, speaking about him, remembering him. In other words, we do what we would normally do to develop a relationship with another person. We learn more about them, we spend time with them, we speak to them, and we offer them gifts of our time and attention. The practice of bhakti purifies the heart and reveals our true self by dismantling the false pretenses and masks that divine and control most people. Acting from realization of the self, such people become full of all good qualities. By their saintly behavior, they create an environment of true family because they see with the soul's eyes that on the spiritual level, everyone is equal. Such lovers are peaceful, thoughtful of others, non-envious, free of greed, and other unbecoming qualities. They create a peaceful environment for others, and their good qualities inspire others to follow their example and experience. They are beacons of true liberty and freedom that are awarded by a genuine spiritual life. They have bright futures in the spiritual plane of existence. This is the person we naturally are. Taking pauses throughout the day to remember that you, a unit of spirit, are situated at the heart, and that you're accompanied there by your divine friend, begins to create shifts of awareness that build into profound and uplifting inner and external changes. You might find that you receive insights about how to act on the platform of the self, which is very freeing. This is a preliminary but important step on our spiritual journey. But to have first-hand experience of the self and forever leave behind the illusory identity and ignorance that the material energy creates, we require a methodology, a spiritual culture designed to achieve this goal. Bhakti has been a favored path for spiritual seekers for millennia. The ancient Bhakti tradition has a vast corpus of literature, and the teachings and methodology have been verified generation after generation for hundreds and thousands of years. Seers and practitioners testify to the efficacy and ease of the practice and confirm its ability to offer a first-hand, direct experience of the self and the Supreme. The deepest need of the soul is love, and the highest joy is found in loving our divine friend. And Bhakti takes us there. Thank you for continuing to explore Bhakti with me. I leave you with this contemplation. What shifts when you begin to see your deepest self as always accompanied, always loved, and never alone occur for you? If this sparks some questions or thoughts, please share them below. Until next time, be well and stay connected to your source. Swasti astu vishvasya. May there be good fortune throughout the universe and for you